All right, here we go. We'll let this breathe for just a quick second. Get those wheels spinning. Green check marks across the board. 1, 2, 3, and 4. What's going on, Broncos country? It is Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Mountain-ish. Thank you for bearing with us. Technical difficulties for a few minutes, but yeah, welcome to MHI, guys. Thomas Hall is joining me, yours truly, Luke Patterson, tonight on MHI as Nick Kendall. Still, we're going to give those vocal cords a little bit more rest. He was pretty squeaky last night, Thomas. He was producing the show for us, and I loved hearing that squeaky voice because I know he's feeling better, and we want to get those reps in for Nick, man. We want to make sure that we're just as ornery as ever. He was doing his private chat yesterday, producing, and then still commenting on the live stream, and he was ornery as hell, man. Ornery as hell, that damn Nick Kendall. And Thomas Hall, man, thank you so much for joining me. We've got to chop it up over a couple shows. I was with Lance yesterday, Carl last week, and I love being able to rock with you guys and talk to all of our guests, all of our hosts, all of our writers. And what better than to kick off MHI with the co-host of MHI tonight, Thomas Hall. What's up, buddy?
Not much. How you doing? I just got back from traveling, so it's been a long couple days. You know how flights are; they tend to be delayed nowadays. So I'm going on a few hours sleep, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah, man, ready to rock and roll. You guys can also catch Thomas on Friday mornings for Legends of Mile High podcast. I tend to toss around insults more than compliments, but I did give you a big compliment last night, Thomas, and said, man, you are the quickest rising star in the podcasting business right now. I don't know anybody that's come up with a podcast that had the success that you have had as quickly as you have. And I mean, Carl Mecklenburg, that's how you're going to start launching a podcast. And then we're going to double down and go with Broncos safety, Justin Simmons. I mean, good Lord. Who do you have for us tonight? I mean, can I get in the cell phone and just scroll through your texts?
Oh, man. I hope I can get more guests like that. That was luck, and that's about it, I guess. But it was great, man. Carl Mecklenburg had some incredible insight. Love talking to Justin Simmons, great guy with some great insight. It was wonderful. So I'm hoping to get a couple more surprise names that you don't see very often.
Boom. I love it. That's why you're on Mile High Insiders, man. You're our insider for tonight. And speaking of support and wonderful and just being a superstar, Tanner coming in here. Tanner Holtz, please correct me, Tanner, if I'm mispronouncing it. A huge $49.99 super chat. Nice. And Travis, Tanner's just saying, guys, I'm just here showing some love. Broncos for life, #state of being. Tanner was in the show at 5:30, Tom, just waiting to throw down his support, waiting to throw down his enthusiasm. And it's called the dead period right now, and I struggle with that, Thomas. I mean, obviously the news cycle is kind of weird, but there are so many reasons for Broncos country to feel optimistic, just like Tanner.
Right. Absolutely. And, we got some good stuff going tonight, I think. And you're right. It is kind of the dead time. There's training camps coming pretty soon, but, there's always something to talk about in Broncos country. And we definitely have that tonight. There's always, history to talk about. You never run out of good topics, though, even in the dead time.
Never. And speaking of topics, Thomas, I saw that you releasing some new articles and ranking Broncos. Top 100 Broncos are being ranked right now. Check out Thomas's latest article at milehighhuddle.com. Please be sure to get over there. And like our guy Dylan Von Arks, he's been putting a lot of good work out there too on milehighhuddle.com, saying, "What's up, Broncos country? Make sure you hit that like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already." Guys, I'm joined tonight with Thomas Hall, host of Legends of Mile High podcast every Friday morning here on Mile High Huddle. If you'd like to get at Thomas on Twitter, that's at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP, and our guy Scott on the ones and twos. And Scott, like yourself, has been traveling. It's crazy because we all, believe it or not, do have a life outside of football, just a little bit, not much, because we're all football junkies. But it's cool, man, to see you guys on the road. You're dedicated to your craft. You guys haven't even gotten settled yet, and I've drug you both out here for MHI. It's absolutely awesome to see everybody. Our guy Dale Fleming is in the house as always. Really appreciate all your support. Kathy was a huge rock star last night on Building the Broncos with Lance and I. We really appreciate you, Kathy. And she's saying howdy to Scott, yourself, and I. And then Jeff Noyes, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Jeff has been a supporter since the beginning as well. Guys, a little bit of support does go a long way. That like and share button really does mean a lot to us. Please be sure to give us a review also wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Spotify, iTunes, wherever, YouTube. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know how we can improve, because we really appreciate you guys allowing us to do what we want to do and what we love to do, and that's bring you analysis, news, everything that is the Denver Broncos. So without further ado, we got to get into something, Thomas, because it seems like, we got to get into something. We got to get into something. And here's the thing, man. It seems like so many people are praising the Broncos, right? I'm seeing my guy, Adam Rank, saying they're going to win the division and go 12-5. Jerry Jeudy was Pro Football Focus's top breakout candidate of 2022. Most improved team. We can go on and on. You get it. Well, today, Good Morning Football is saying that some of the staff on that illustrious team is saying that, hey, hold on, pump your brakes. Broncos might finish last in the AFC West. My ears immediately perked up. I got a little upset, and then I'm trying to figure out, is it just the fan in me that's getting upset because the Broncos have been finishing last? I mean, you look at the Raiders and the Chargers and the success that they had in the 2022 season, and the Kansas City Chiefs, six-time reigning division champ. I mean, that's a hard title to overthrow. But Russell Wilson wasn't brought here to finish last in the division his very first year, Tom.
No. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what when I first saw that, the thing that I listened to immediately was the I think it was D'Angelo Hall was saying that Russell Wilson was carried basically by a great defense and a great running game. And I mean, yes, they've had a great defense in the past. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl on a great defense when Russell Wilson started early, but in his career, but they have not had either of those together at the same time since 2015. In fact, they've had some pretty poor defenses, even though they've still got that Legion of Boom reputation, and they've only been highly ranked a couple times in the running game since 2015, and in fact, their 2020 season they were ranked 22nd in defense, 12th in rushing, and if you take away Russell Wilson's rushing yards, was 513, they would have been 31st ranked, and that's when they went 12-4. So Russell Wilson obviously carried them to that 12-4 record, which is second best, tied for second best in the Pete Carroll era. So to say that he was carried by the running game and defense, maybe early on that was he was, but since then it's been Russell Wilson's team there in Seattle, and which still surprises me why they let him go. But you got to have a lot of optimism in that. Plus, I'll also say his 2020 season was adjusted for era, ranked in the top 80th percentile since 1960 of qualifying quarterbacks. So he's definitely not washed up, and he's definitely not carried by anyone.
No, I've got a problem with that. Russell Wilson doesn't need to be carried by anyone, period. And you can be a little salty if you're a Seattle fan. I get it. That would, you're a lover scorned pretty much.
Right.
It sucks, but you'll always have those golden years with Russell Wilson, but that time is over. And I feel like maybe the NFL Network's trying to get a reaction out of us, and that's what they're doing. Sometimes you do have to do that in this line of work. We don't really subscribe to that here at MHH. We shoot it pretty straight, in my opinion, and sometimes a little too straight can get myself into trouble. But speaking of trouble, GLP, Gary Leeds Palmer, he's a troublemaker. What's up, buddy? Welcome to MHI with Tom, Luke, and Scott. Good afternoon, Luke, Thomas, and Scott. It's nice to be getting some love from the media now. Go Broncos, let's ride. So Gary's picking up what I'm throwing down, what you're throwing down. on one hand, you're getting the media saying this could be the best team ever. We were getting questions last night comparing this 2022 roster with the 2015 roster, and we're going through Hall of Famers on that team, potential Hall of Famers on this team, going through all the what ifs right now, right? But Gary's exactly right. I feel like we're starting to get a little split now. There's a little bit of splintering in the national perspective because it's been nothing but the media darling story of Russell Wilson as the Denver Broncos quarterback. We are getting a new owner in the Walton Penner ownership group. That owner led by Robert Walton. I mean, you're the richest NFL owner in league history. Yep. You're the 19th richest man on planet Earth. These things are going to have intense ramifications. Good things are coming for Broncos country. And if you don't see that, I hate to call you a hater, but I don't see any reason to not be optimistic. Now, whether or not, Tom, it could happen overnight in 1 year, that's a different story. But to suggest a last place finish in the division, come on, man.
Well, the funny thing is it's not like the Broncos were 3-14 now, I guess, the 17-game season. They were 5 games out of first place at 7-10. They were, 12-win team. They're only 2 games behind the Chargers last year. So they weren't far off, and they had horrific quarterback play last year. So when it comes to improving the most important position, they are the most improved team in all of the NFL because they brought in a future Hall of Fame quarterback with plenty of gas left in the tank, still playing at a high level. There's nobody else in the division who has made that kind of leap in 1 year. Some have improved. I would say the Chiefs didn't improve. They're still formidable. I mean, you got Pat Mahomes, you got Andy Reid. But they've lost their, top receiver, lost their safety. I mean, they've lost some folks. And yes, I think the Raiders improved too. They brought in Chandler Jones, which is definitely going to give you an impact. But I mean, I love Devontae Adams, but a wide receiver isn't going to move the needle like a quarterback, and it's a huge gap. So you don't think that bringing in a quarterback of that caliber is going to give you a 2, 3, 4 game boost over the previous season? I just don't. I don't see why. They didn't have much evidence to back up their claim in that show today. Is all I'm going to say.
That's a nice way of saying they're full of crap. I'll go ahead and say it. Sometimes this media gig, man, you do things for the clickbait, for the headlines. I mean, we love Good Morning Football, obviously. Sad to see Kay go. But speaking of love, our guy Phil McLaughlin coming in. Phil was a huge supporter last night, as he is as always, saying, "Good evening, Luke, Tom, and Scott." Well, Luke, some upgrading, getting Tom in to replace Nick. Laugh out loud. No. Just kidding, Nick. Hashtag let's ride. Hashtag MHH for life. See, Phil knows how we do it. We don't like to compliment each other very much, Nick and I. We like to throw shade because I feel like that's how you really know you love a guy. Like you really got a friend with you because it's that friend who's kind of, a Richard, if you will, that when you have something you're super proud of, he's the first one that's going to point out a mistake. Well, it's because he loves you. He's a little bit of a jerk, but he loves you, and that's what we like to do here on MHI. He is Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. Scott Kennedy on the ones and twos. If you'd like to get at Tom, get at him at Thomas Hall NFL on Twitter. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP, and Scott Kennedy at Scout Kennedy as well. And man, it looks like Jamie's weighing in here because I thought this was interesting too. And Jamie, thank you for joining MHI with Tom, Scott, and I, and just saying, look, they had Melvin Gordon on Good Morning Football right before that, and they literally talked about it. And it was, I think it might have been McCourty or Hall, one of the DBs, and they're like, "Look, man, Melvin Gordon was here yesterday, and I wouldn't have said this if he was standing here." And I'm like, "Why not, man? I say all kinds of things about Melvin Gordon. And I wish he was here." But look, the big thing for me, and when you started talking about, what kind of evidence do they have? What kind of facts, what kind of reasoning? It really came down to a question as opposed to supportive facts. And that question was, is Russell Wilson a top 5 quarterback? And everybody seemed to go thumbs down on that. And I'm scratching my head. Justin Herbert, I love the potential. I love the play. But you're exactly right, Tom. When you look at the AFC as a conference last year and the bizarre thing that started the playoffs, I mean, that Chargers-Raiders game at the end of the season, I've never seen anything like it in terms of the stakes on how a team could potentially get into the playoffs if this team loses, if the game went to overtime. And I mean, it was just absolutely insane. So I think you're hitting on something when you're saying the Broncos aren't that far off with a 5-game difference really from 500. And now you got Russ Wilson. Now you got a new coaching staff. Come on, man. Like, it's just, for me, it's one of these things where Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback. You bet. I automatically put him above Justin Herbert. Why? Because of what he's got on his finger. And that's a Super Bowl ring. And that's just how I look at things. Call me old fashioned, call me old school, get off your lawn guy. I'll take it. But for me, it's about the hardware. It really is. And it's interesting because I'm referencing Adam Rank, who I wrote an article on milehighhuddle.com. And he said, look, I think the Broncos are going to win this division and go 12-5, split the division going 3-3. That first loss he had to the Raiders in week 4. But interestingly enough, Adam Rank had 2 3-game winning streaks for the Denver Broncos in 2022, and then only 2 games where they lost back-to-back games. So no more than 2 games lost. That's a huge improvement.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you could, if you were to analyze this team and say they could finish last because they have a new coach that's unproven, you don't know what he's going to do. He could be a terrible coach. But the fact that they said Russell Wilson isn't a top 5 quarterback or isn't elite, that's where you kind of start to shake your head and say, come on, really?
Yeah.
You're going to say that? I mean, I've told you before that I've analyzed every quarterback since 1960, AFL included, and I adjusted for era. Russell Wilson was one of the very few that have had 6 top 400, 80th percentile finishes adjusted for era in the history. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if you look at if you look at 2017 to now, and you say any quarterback had at least 4 seasons in there, he's only behind Mahomes, Breeze, Rodgers, Brady. That's it. And then he's top 5. There's
Hall of Famers.
He's not. I mean, maybe they're looking at last year when he was hurt, and they're saying, looking at his stats overall or something. I don't know what they're looking at, but they're not looking at logic. They're not looking at good, solid evidence.
Yeah.
So
I think they're looking maybe just at the fall of Seattle as a whole. And Gary Leeds Palmer, thanks for weighing in again, buddy. So many good things have happened in the last year for the Broncos. It just feels like destiny.
Yeah.
MHH for life. Go Broncos. Let's ride.
And on top of it, we're not even. Yeah, thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. We're not even talking about the other additions they made. We're talking about one addition. They also brought in other people. So it's not like they just got Russell Wilson and that's it. They improved their defense pretty well on the defensive line, I think. I think they've got young players that are in their second, third year, so they're going to be much better. To look at 4 emblems on a TV screen and say, well, I think the Raiders and the Chiefs are definitely going to go to the playoffs because they went to the playoffs last year. Right. That's ridiculous. And to go down that road like that just boggled my mind.
Yeah, it bothers me too, man, just because, look, I was willing to go so far as saying Aaron Rodgers coming to Denver with Vic Fangio would not only save Vic Fangio's job, but would bring him a potential championship. So by that same logic, I mean, if you want to take away the stats, you want to take away the film, let's just look at that philosophy. If we could take one of the worst coaches that this franchise has seen and pair him up with a Hall of Fame quarterback in Russell Wilson, and he's going to make a Super Bowl run. I mean, that's not a crazy thing to think. So then when you've got new offensive minds, young minds relatively, coming in with Justin Outten, Nathaniel Hackett. I love what you're hearing from special teams coach Dwayne Stukes. Yeah. And maybe that's another thing we need to look at. I mean, the special teams unit has been atrocious for Denver since the early 2000s. I mean, I can't put my finger on it. It's like the right tackle position. The right tackle position we can't figure out. Special teams we can't figure out. And I mean, we got the quarterback. So
Right.
it's hard to temper expectations because right now we're hearing the Broncos are going to be the greatest thing ever. And then the first bad thing we hear, I think we tend to overreact, myself
Sure.
included, just because we're human, man. And that's what we do.
Sure.
And KB82 coming in. Speaking of what we do, we show love and support, just like KB. Appreciate you. I'm so excited to see Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, and KJ Hamler with a legit quarterback. I can seriously see 4 guys with 7+ receiving touchdowns. Holy cow, that's 28. They told me math would not be involved in being an analyst, and they lied all the way because I can do 7 times 4. But man, dude, that's 28
That's huge.
touchdowns with just those 4 receivers. We're not looking at the tight ends. We're not looking at running backs who can catch the ball. What do you think, Tom? I think KB might be onto something here.
Yeah, that's I mean, the problem is going to be footballs to go around all 4 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you could say maybe an average between those 4 will be 7. But who knows, man? You got a quarterback that's going to deliver the deep ball, deliver an accurate ball. I mean, these players have been struggling with subpar at best quarterback play for the last couple of years. Sutton is coming back, second year removed from his injury. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think he's going to be the star of these 4 out of all of them.
So does Nick.
I really
Nick
do.
agrees with you, by the
Yeah.
way. Nick and you are planning your poll and I think Carl. I think you guys are both there and you're committed. Cortland's going to be your
Yeah.
top dog for the 2022 season.
I love his aggressive attitude. I love how he attacks the ball. He's a 50-50 stud. I just love how he attacks the ball. I think he's going to be a beast in the red zone this year. I think he's going to have a career year. I think Patrick may be the one that doesn't see a big spike because he's been pretty consistent. And I think he's been kind of the most consistent player the last couple of years in the receiving corps. So I think you're going to see Sutton and Jeudy jump off the page. Patrick's going to be his reliable self. And then I don't know about KJ. I don't know where he's going to get all those touches because there's just a lot to go. Not very many of those passes to go around.
I'm not saying I know anything, but I've heard rumor that they've got all kinds of special, cute little packages for KJ. So watch out. They know that speed kills, and gone are the days where Pat Shurmur's offense was just pathetic. Now you've got not only a couple gentlemen and a whole staff full of men and ladies that understand the game of football, but they love the game of football so much that they're trying to innovate and create new plays and packages. And that's what's really exciting about things, because it feels like for too long, the Broncos have been trying to play catch up just by chasing one position. And they're getting further behind because they're going the opposite way in terms of philosophy, culture, getting away from the technology, not having an owner. All these things are starting to clear themselves up a little bit. I would push back a little. I think Tim Patrick is going to have a really good season. For me, he's my alpha dog. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize that this guy's the real deal. No, his 40 time is not the fastest. No, he doesn't command, highlight reels or anything like that. But he has been old reliable. And it just seems like he's improving each year. I mean, he got paid, and you kind of wait after, especially a dependent position like the wide receivers get paid, and I'm wondering, are we gonna shut down a little? Is it injury? No way, man. So if you're telling me that either Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick are your top dog, I'm in. Jerry Jeudy, it's time to get going, dude. It is time to get going. KJ Hamler, same thing with you. It's not me hating or anything like that. It is what it is. And we can blame the quarterback play, we can blame the coaching, but tape speaks for itself. And I think that a lot was left on the field for more than just Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler at times. And that's not going to be something that Broncos country needs to worry about this year. Effort will no longer be the problem.
I don't think so, nor a coach set back with a stagnant mind and unwilling to budge from his philosophy. So I think that's going to be a big change. So
Karen's coming in swinging, man. Look, she's right there. She's like, Fangio would have ruined any quarterback, in my opinion. I'd like to never hear his name again. Yeah, Karen, it's pretty crazy how things have changed so quickly, right, Tom? I mean, like 6-7 years of just wandering the NFL abyss. And then we're back, like Vance Joseph used to say. And it seems like not that long ago, Vance Joseph was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. And you're hoping that not only is the quarterback carousel is over, but that this coaching staff carousel is over. But just like the Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders have a new head coach, a name that Broncos country is very familiar with. And I can see it in the comments here. Josh McDaniels. And we talked about Josh McDaniels, Lance and I, last night a little bit. I said, here's the only nice thing I'm willing to say about Josh McDaniels. As a man, I can respect him getting into that podium and saying he screwed up in Denver. He was horrible with how he treated people. I think when people reveal their faults and take accountability, that's a real rare thing, especially in today's modern climate. So I'm all about that. Now, talk is one thing. Are you going to be about it? It's easy to spit that into the microphone, but when your team's losing, are you screaming at them like Thanksgiving? Like you be screaming at my guy, Tyler Columbus, do your job and quit making bleep up. Are you going to, have you changed? Have we grown up? What do you think the difference Josh McDaniels can make with Derek Carr truly is? And then some guy named Devontae Adams.
Yeah. I mean, I have no love for Josh McDaniels. So what he did to the Broncos, he tore them down. Jamie Wisner, I don't want to hear that name Vance Joseph again. Yeah, definitely not either. But McDaniels,
you're gonna, because Vance is gonna get another job. Just real quick, like we all know he's gonna get another shot, and I'm wishing him well. But at least Vance wasn't a jerk. You know what I mean? Like McDaniels was an a-hole.
Yeah, he tore the team down for no reason other than his own ego. And if he had not jumped ship with the Colts when he got that job, kind of unexpectedly backed out, I could say, okay, maybe over the years he's kind of changed his ways. But I don't know. I mean, at least this offseason, you don't see him getting in a battle of trading people away and things like that. So maybe he has, but I mean, he's a great play caller. Don't get me wrong. I just find it hard to think that he's became a leader of the men all of a sudden, so to speak, after he went back to his comfort zone in New England and let Belichick run the show. So it's hard to say. I think he probably will do okay with Derek Carr, but like we said, it remains to be seen how he has changed, if at all.
Yeah, the X's, and that's something we talked about last night, Lance and I, and you're hitting on it right now too. The X's and O's have never been a problem for Josh McDaniels. It's the Jimmies and Joes. It's how do you relate with guys on an interpersonal level? And Tom, we all have business outside of football, and communication is still the same as it is here. It's all about delivery. It's about a plan. I'm reading a really interesting book right now by a former Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, about leadership strategies and accountability, and how do you empower people? How do you make them not only believe in themselves, but believe in the mission? And one of the most fundamental aspects that this book is talking about is coming up with a plan. And I think that you're seeing George Paton's plan being executed. He came up with this plan long ago, him and his staff in the dark room of UC Health Training Center over there, where none of us had any clue that Russell Wilson was ever on this radar. And whoever says, I had an idea, you're lying, because I'm telling you, I've tried. More important people than me have tried to get whispers out of that building. Tom, you've tried. We're all trying to get the dirt over there, and it's like Fort Knox. George Paton has got that building completely locked down. We all thought Aaron Rodgers, myself included, based off of things I was hearing at the Shrine Bowl, Aaron's coming here, man. I believed in it. And then all of a sudden, Russ comes here. So you see this plan, and you see George Paton putting faith in his guys and then stepping back, in his gals and stepping back. And I absolutely love it. Russell Wilson does the same thing. That's the quality of a true leader, empowering your team and making them truly believe in the mission.
Right. And demanding excellence too. I mean, if you all the Pat Bowlen days, it didn't matter how you finished the year before. If you the next year was win the Super Bowl or else kind of thing, and you've got to lead with that mindset. And I think they all kind of have that mindset. Russell Wilson, definitely, it's Super Bowl or bust for him. And I think, that changes the game. It's not, oh, hey, maybe we should at least have a winning season this year. It's Super Bowl.
I love
Lawrence Rivera, how you doing? I see you on Legends of Mile High often. I like how you guys said that all right, we have a lot of talent and it's hard to get the ball to all these guys. So that being said, should we consolidate and go after some big weapons that can't be stopped, even if they know we are going to with a certain play, like seek out certain players and go after them now that we have the players at cost-effective contracts, or would that just set us back? Well, who are you going to go after is the question. I mean, there's not anybody really available right now. And I mean, you could throw together a trade package for somebody big, but who would that be? I don't know who you would get right now, which team would let a player go that's going to be better than Sutton or Judy potentially. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'd be a hard one to sell. And then especially you don't have that many draft picks left right now, right?
Yeah, and one thing we know about George Paton, any good GM is going to value that rookie contract, right, Tom? I mean, this is something that is just, it's one of the most valuable things. So we could sit up there and say F them picks and laugh all we want. But man, when you've got a guy or multiple guys on rookie contracts, that does allow you to spend. And I like where Lawrence is coming from there, because I think the Broncos are pretty set right now, and that's a good thing. But one thing one thing we are forgetting as a fan base, as the media, as analysts, we can't account for injury. We don't know when these things are going to happen. We're living in a climate that things are getting better with that little bug and everything like that, but it's still around. We don't know how that's going to affect the league. I think things are going in the right direction. Don't get me wrong, but my point is that we just don't know, and we can't account for trouble. We can't account for tragedy. We can't account for some of these things. And when you have this amount of depth, the last thing you want to do is start shipping guys away. And I do look at players and wonder, man, I wonder what we could get for that guy. We all do it. We all wonder who we could put on the trading block when we're playing Madden and see if we could get our favorite player. But Phil McLaughlin, one of our favorite guys. I saw that our secondary is ranked 8 or 9. Where would you guys rank our receiving core? You're exactly right, Phil. I think Mike Renner put that out, and Nick had showed that for us yesterday. I had a problem with it because they had Miami really up there. I don't think Denver's that far off, if we're going to be honest. I like Buffalo's secondary a lot, but this receiving core is pretty unproven when you look at half of the guys, right? KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy. You've got the other half that are old dogs, and one of them's been banged up. So I think that the national media probably would rank this receiving core pretty low. And when I say low, I mean maybe 10 in top 10, and I still think that's great. What say you, Tom?
Well, I mean, for me, rankings are kind of pointless at this time of the year because we never know. But I'll tell you, they have a load of talent. I would take the Broncos receiving core, young, talented group, pretty much against anybody, but they have to produce. And we've made excuses, like you said, Luke, in the past for a couple of them, but I think this year they're going to be one of the better units in the league. I think there's a few units on this team that are going to be better than people think. But I mean, you got to think about Cortland Sutton last year coming back from that injury. You know, he's got 2 now. He's going on 3 years removed from it. I think he's going to be good. I think, you know, excuses aside, Judy was not used to his full potential, I don't think, and he wasn't getting the ball delivered to him very well. So I think those are going to be some big jumps. And like you said, Patrick's a stud. So, I mean, I'd rank him in the top 10 on paper, but like you got to produce. And at this point, it's the power rankings at this point in the season. Ranking this units at this point of the season is almost pointless, really. But they're a good group.
It's tough, man. It's really tough. Like you said, these rankings, and we got to do what we can on paper to try to foreshadow things that we have no control over, that no one has any control over. But I've got some control over saying what's up to our guy, Clayton Heron. What's up, Clayton? Hey, guys, again, 2 days in a row. Remember, guys, smash that like button and share. First time for this show, Thomas. Keep up the great work, guys. Playing at the park again while I listen. It's really cool. Tom Clayton was playing catch with his little boy yesterday while listening to our pod, man, and it got me really like emotional, thinking, man, I fell in love with sports radio driving around town in my dad's pickup truck, man. And it's humbling to know that like people are listening to us while they're spending time with their loved ones, with their family members. And your dad, you get how this stuff goes, man.
Yeah, that's why I do it. You know, I mean, I love to talk and I love to talk football, but if there's no one listening, what's the point? So it's all, it's all about you guys out there listening. And I just hope that I can, and we can bring some sort of insight that maybe you didn't know, or give the old aha moment. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, Tom. And not only the insight, but sometimes the distraction is healthy. When I put on some podcasts that I like to listen to, whether that be entertainment or music or anything like that, it's to get away from all the craziness, right? To all the toxicity. And that's what we have in football. That's why this is a beautiful thing. That's why we argue with each other. That's why we can get after each other, because at the end of the day, we're still human beings, and it's the game that we love. I'm not going to say it's just the game, because this game has done so much for me in my life and so much for others that I love it. It's the greatest game in the world. Shout out to the Colorado Avalanche. We'll give them another shout out. I know the parade's being planned for tomorrow, but speaking of shout outs, Zachary Peterson coming in here with a very generous $4.99 super. Thank you so much, Zach. Listen to this. What about trading for Deion Jones? He is available according to Atlanta.
Yeah, what are you going to trade for him? I mean, if they're looking for a seventh round pick or something, yeah, why not? But he's not going to move the needle that much as a linebacker, in my opinion. I think you've got people who don't, for some reason, people think Josie Jewell can't play linebacker. I don't know why. Probably his 40 time. He's going to be a stud this year if he can stay healthy. I think he's going to have a huge breakout year where people are going, "Wow, yeah, Josie Jewell," and then why would you need another one on the field for passing downs? I mean, we're seeing the NFL go to more DBs, maybe one linebacker on there. So I mean, unless it's a super cheap deal, then yeah, go for it. But otherwise, I mean, I don't see why to go after him.
Yeah, Zach, that's a really interesting question. And Zach, please get at Scott too. Scott and Nick Kendall at Nick Kendall MHH at Scout Kennedy. Scott also does kind of like our sister channel. Scott and Nick cover the Atlanta Falcons as well. Yeah. And Scott's weighing in here with some really good details that make a lot of sense to answer your question, Zach. Mr. Jones carries a $20 million cap hit this year. Cha-ching. And then Atlanta's going to eat another 11 mil in dead cap for the next 2 seasons if they cannot trade him, and they'll do it if they can. It's an extreme cash dump for him. They take anything if you take on some salary. And that's one thing I think you're seeing with George Paton too, man. He's a real stickler, and I love that he is, because he doesn't want to give up that much. I mean, we talk about the Von Miller trade and what he was able to land for that, and it was a win-win for both sides. Of course, Von being able to get another Super Bowl, and now he's with Buffalo and everything like that. But even with the Russell Wilson trade, I was surprised that they didn't get more in terms of players. They got Noah Fant and Shelby Harris. No disrespect to either guy, but the fact that Jerry Jeudy remained on this roster was shocking to me.
Yeah, I still cannot believe the Seahawks gave him up for what they gave him up for.
Nothing?
I know. I mean, really, it is for that caliber of a quarterback. I still just shake my head every time I think about, like, what happened? Why did they do that?
They threw him away like he was a piece of garbage, dude. And I don't understand it. I mean, the only thing I could figure is maybe things got a little lost in translation in the front office. I mean, I do know, right? You had the Seattle Seahawks owner pass away within, I think, the last decade or so. So there's still a transition period. I know a decade's a long time, but for $1 billion business, I mean, talk about transition. We know transition all too well with the Broncos, the trust, all these sort of things. We know how messy it can be, but like we said earlier, Tom, I mean, Russ is not the issue. Russ doesn't need to be carried. Russ isn't the issue. I think the problem really was, and you never see it, a team picked the head coach over the quarterback. And I guess you do see it because you saw it in New England. Right? Yeah. You saw it with Tommy and Bill Belichick, and Mr. Kraft said, "All right, Bill, you're my bae, and I'm riding with you come hell or high water." Well, now the Seattle Seahawks are doing the same thing.
The difference there, though, is Tom Brady was in his 40s. That's a huge difference. They let him go in the 40s. In his 40s, it was still a mistake because he still had some good.
You're right. He wasn't like exactly prime Tom Brady, and you're right. There's a huge difference there.
There's the opposite that happened right here in the Mile High City, though, when Dan Reeves wanted to choose Tommy Maddox over a still young John Elway. And Pat Bowlen said, "I'm choosing John Elway, sorry," and sent Dan Reeves packing. So the opposite did occur here in Denver. And that's probably why I still sit there and think, why did that
But
happen?
at the same time, though, as well as anybody, being a great football historian, and one of the reasons I love catching your show on Friday mornings, catch Tom on Legends of Mile High podcast on Friday mornings. He's already done a couple shows with Carl Mecklenburg, Justin Simmons. You never know who's going to stop by on Friday morning. One of the things that I do think is interesting, though, in that aspect is Mike Shanahan. I mean, Pat Bowlen kind of chose Mike Shanahan in the background of some of that noise with Maddox and Elway and him getting chased over to the Raiders and coming back and stuff like that. And there was a ton of internal beef going on there with Reeves and Elway and stuff like that, as any good historian of Broncos country knows. But you're exactly right. I mean, Russell Wilson, he's not an old man. I think that there's this notion that it's because it's been a little while since he won a Super Bowl, 2013, that it's somehow he's got this long gray beard, can't move, and is garbage. That is not the case. We were over the moon getting Peyton Manning here, and the guy, we were worried his head was going to fall off after a hit.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it is funny. Just go back to something you said. Remember, Shanahan turned Bowlen down, though. He didn't take the job. That's why Wade Phillips got the job when Dan Reeves was
for
like,
1 year.
He wanted his 2 years, I think, but
was it? Okay.
He wanted Shanahan to come back. He turned him down. He went to the 49ers, stayed with the 49ers and won a Super Bowl there. But going back to Russell Wilson and thinking he's old, I mean, this is not the 90s. When Traquan was 34 and he was done. The quarterbacks last so much longer, and the first 5 years of Russell Wilson's career versus the last 5 years, and this is taking a bit of a hit because of last season. That team's only lost 7 less games in those same 2 compared 5-year periods. So it's not like he's not winning. He just doesn't want a Super Bowl. That's all. But he's still, 12-4, 11-5, 10-6. On teams that weren't very good. I'm telling you, the Seattle Seahawks, around him just kept dwindling and dwindling away. So
yeah, and Jeff Noyes had pointed it out a second ago, saying Wilson had the leverage to move on, and that's something you're seeing more and more in today's NFL, right? It used to be, I remember I was a huge basketball fan, not so much anymore, just because I don't have time for it, really. I mean, this NFL thing is a full-time gig, guys. I know it's the dead season. It's not the dead season at milehighhuddle.com, man. I'm telling you, we've got guys and gals working their tails off to bring you the most exclusive Broncos content. Yeah, man, it's one of those things where you're seeing the NFL starting to have some clout with players. Yeah. It used to be an NBA thing, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, that kind of thing. Now it's an NFL thing, and you're seeing guys that started, kind of with Le'Veon Bell, if we're going to be honest a little bit. Didn't work out well for him. No, but I digress. Naj, our guy. Naj has been with us since the beginning as well, a very good friend of the show. Thanks for stopping by, Naj. Huge, generous super chat that helps us keep the lights on here at MHH. What's going on, brothers? I get that Vic Fangio was a below average head coach, but defensively, I felt like the defense kept the team in most every game. How do you guys feel about the new staff, and how will the D hold up in a stacked AFC this year? So I'll take this one real quick. I'm super pumped for the new staff. I like the offense, but I'm so curious about Evero. Nick and I have just been chomping at the bit to ask this man a question, to try to get in his head, try to figure out what his defensive line wants to look like, his spacing, his gaps, the most fundamental aspects of defense I'm very curious about. But what really has me going, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is special teams coach Dwayne Stukes. This guy talks like he's a future head coach already, and maybe he's all talk, right? We've done the Brock Olivo thing where he's great sound bites that we can laugh and giggle at, but it's a horrible trash product. This guy's saying, look, I'm not chasing players to come play special teams. You either want to play or you don't. You want a job or you don't. He's telling us into the microphone before they break from OTAs, mandatory minicamp and everything like that. He's saying Sean McVay taught me, I see better than I hear. Pretty much, be about it. Don't talk about it. And I'm like, dude, this is a guy who gets it. This is a guy that's going to come up in the NFL and have a lot of success just by that very basic philosophy of holding guys accountable. So Naj, I am super pumped about this coaching staff. You hear energy. That word is thrown around like nauseum, and energy is contagious, Tom. I believe very strongly in my bones. You're either a person who brings energy into a room or you take it out. It's
Yep.
that simple. There's no ifs, ands, or in betweens. You need to come into a room deliberate one way or the other. And I'm pumped about it. But what say you? Naj wants to know about the defense.
Yeah.
He wants to know how the defense is going to look in a very stacked, pass rushing heavy AFC West. How do you think?
I tell you, they're having fun, I think, out there. And that's number one key, whether you're playing in Pop Warner or you're playing in the NFL at the highest level. If you're not having fun, you're not playing to your optimal best. And I think that's going to be a big thing. But I think you're going to see a D that looks like they're not quite as good statistically speaking, but they're going to take the ball away a lot more, which is was the Achilles heel for the Fangio defense. They just couldn't create takeaways, and it cost them. They were one of the lowest teams in the league last couple of years on takeaways. And maybe that was being a little too conservative because the offense wasn't doing their side of the work, but they don't have that problem anymore. So I think you're going to see a lot more takeaways and maybe a little more, garbage time stats when they're ahead because their offense got them a few scores ahead. But yeah, I think they're going to do what's important to win, which is take away the ball.
Yeah, KB weighing in with a quick comment, man. KB's been active in this chat. Appreciate you so much, KB, and man, just rocking with us. Really appreciate that. Welcome to MHI with Thomas Hall and yours truly and Scott Kennedy. Yeah, here's the thing. He's calling the shot, and I love it. Who will lead in sacks? I have Bradley Chubb at 12. So KB's got a Bradley Chubb year that we haven't seen since 2018, where he did record 12 sacks as a rookie. Injuries have just weighed on Chubb so heavy. His 2020 season was his second best at 7.5. But can those knees hold up enough for Bradley Chubb to be the leading pass rusher on the Broncos D?
Yeah, I think if he stays healthy, he is. But that's the problem I have with both of the starting edge rushers. They haven't been on the field as much as they could have been. I think you're going to see somebody that you wouldn't suspect lead the team, Draymond Jones. He's going to get to the quarterback this year and actually finish it. And he's not going to have huge numbers, but based on other players missing time, he's going to probably have 10 sacks and lead the team.
10, man, you and Nick and Carl, you guys love Draymond Jones. I mean, like, your love for Draymond Jones is through the moon. And while I can appreciate Draymond, I do. I mean, the guy hasn't gotten over 6.5 sacks. So we're talking about doubling that potentially. That would be great. This guy's looking to get paid. I love his attitude, right? He's a hell of an interview, especially, but this guy was a beast. You're right. Last year, I mean, he was coming on. Can he play consistently? That's the thing. Pass rushers, man, I'm worried. I'm worried about the Broncos pass rushing unit. I'm not a fan of Baron Browning moving to the outside. I would have loved to see him continue his inside linebacker play. I think Ohio State screwed with him a little bit in terms of flip-flopping him around so much inside, outside. Can he pass rush? Just because you can do all these things doesn't mean you should. I mean, J.J. Watt can throw a beautiful football. I'm not going to play him in there at quarterback. It's just not going to happen. Even when J.J. Watt was doing those 2-point conversions and touchdowns for the Texans, you'll see the Cardinals doing that crap with him. You can't afford to get him hurt. I mean, so the cutesy stuff, I get it. This is football, and this is a need because you've got Gregory, right, who's got an elbow issue. We don't know what he's going to look like even in training camp. Bradley Chubb, who I've talked about his injury history. We don't need to go there any further. Malik Reed, who's rather underwhelming. Jonathan Cooper, who I love, Browning's teammate from Ohio State. Right. But I mean, all these guys have got somewhat of an issue or they're super underwhelming. Nick Bonito, I mean, he's the new guy in the building, and George Paton saying, hey, we got to put tons of weight on him and we need to get him in the weight room. I'm thinking, oh, well, that kind of is a little underwhelming. What do you think about the pass rushers? Are you feeling good? Are you worried? What would you do to improve it?
Yeah, I'm worried just because of health reasons. I mean, like I said before, Chubb has been injured often. Gregory has spent more time off the field than he has on, not just injuries, but suspensions. And really, he's played less games than he's been suspended or injured for. So that worries me. The fact that they moved Baron Browning to edge, if he's going to probably push Malik Reed off the team, who's not a great, not like an elite pass rusher, but he's got good pass rushing skills. He can come in and provide great depth, but he's probably going to be in a different uniform because they're not going to get rid of Nick Bonito.
No.
So it does worry me. I think Nick Benito's issue is and when I was talking with Carl Mecklenburg, he was talking about needing some counter moves. So if he can develop some counters, he probably can be a pretty good pass rusher. But he's a rookie, so there's a question marks. Health is a question marks, and being a rookie is a question mark. And Baron Browning making that switch is a question mark, and it also will cause ripple effect. So you got Reed's probably off if he sticks around. Cooper's probably. I mean, I loved Cooper last year. He played.
Me too.
It was a great story, but where's he going to be? Why move Baron Browning? He was playing pretty well at the inside linebacker position. Why are you moving him and pushing one or two other players who were pretty solid depth off the team? Both of those players aren't going to be on the team. Maybe Cooper might make the practice squad, but somebody will pick him up. So
maybe the answer to that question, why move him? Maybe not only need, right, because of injury and stuff like that, but maybe Jonas Griffin was a pleasant surprise they weren't expecting. I mean, I got to see it first before I go there with Jonas Griffin. I think he's a nice player, but they're really pumping him up over there at UCL Training Center. And I'm not calling them liars or anything. They're there with the guy. I'm not. I'm sure he's doing great. But, man, could it be Jonas Griffin and Josie Jewell? They're like, oh, wow, maybe if we can put Jonas Griffin with a seasoned veteran like Josie Jewell, he can make up some of the athleticism that is missed. But at the same time, you pointed it out, Josie Jewell has this mind, this defensive mind that is so rare. You can't sideline it. He can see things happen, and that's where he can get his edge. That's why he can play in today's league, because he uses his mind, the most important muscle in your body, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and he's not unathletic. He just didn't have a fast 40 time. If you look at his agility drills, he was actually pretty darn good.
Tom, agility drills. I don't need to look at agility drills. Agility drills. I can't even say that. Agility drills when I'm watching tight ends burn him, man.
Yeah.
Or running backs on the Texas route burn him.
I'll tell you what. The tight ends are better athletes across the board than inside linebackers. So if you're putting inside linebacker on a tight end, you're going to get burned. It's just the way it is. You don't want to be doing that. Maybe in a pinch if you have to,
unless you're Tampa.
But Josie Jewell is, his biggest quality is his instincts, his read and react ability. He's smart, gets the defense set up. Those are what you need from an inside linebacker, and his sideline to sideline ability is pretty good for having a 4.85 40. So he's one step ahead, which is awesome. But again, how many times are there going to have two linebackers on the field at one time? Not very many in today's league. And Jonas Griffith, man, he put together 4 great games last year at the end of the season. But that's a small sample size, so we'll see. But that's another one that worries me with injuries. So if someone gets hurt, are they moving Baron Browning back? He's set back for another training camp. What are they going to do? So that's a tough one.
I love that you said that, and I've been saying on this show and on other shows that you're essentially getting another rookie season out of Baron Browning, because you're taking the man out of the element he played in. He had the green dot, for crying out loud, on that defense last year as a rookie. And I like to kind of describe him as a poor man Micah Parsons, and that's a really good compliment, because while Micah Parsons was a freak last year and everything that he did, told you so, by the way, it's just one of those things where Baron Browning, yes, he can do it, but I don't know if it's good for him. Time will tell. Naj coming in again. Appreciate you joining Tom, Scott, and I, Naj, on MHI. Nick Benito kind of reminds me of Shane Ray. I hope his career turns out much different. Yeah, me too, man. Shane was good to me. I've got to interview and talk to Shane on and off the record, and those wrist injuries and stuff like that, and just not having really a solid foundation in terms of coaching, in terms of what he should have been doing as a player. It was a bummer to see Shane Ray, kind of fizzle out here in Denver.
Yeah, it is a shame. He was first round draft choice, and kind of borderline bust. I mean, he did provide some good pass rush off the bench, 2015 and whatnot. But I actually feel like Benito's got more speed around the edge than Shane Ray did. Shane Ray was kind of more of a bully, so to speak, as opposed to kind of one that can come off the edge quick and bend around the offensive tackle. Of course, I haven't done a lot of film watching with Nick Benito, so I don't know that for a fact, but he just, from what I have seen, seems a little quicker than Shane Ray.
Sure.
But he's still got to put. They're saying he's got to put some more muscle on. He's got to learn some counter moves. I mean, he's a bit of a project in the second round, I guess, from what I'm hearing. But you never know. I mean,
yeah,
you just never know.
Well, and a bit of a project that might be thrust into a starting role. I mean, let's make no bones about it. I mean, a second round draft pick is a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's a premium draft pick. Rounds 1 through 3 are your premium draft picks. You don't have to be an NFL analyst or draft expert to know. But it's just one of those things where necessity might need to come in there. It might need to be a sink or swim moment. And sometimes that's the best learning that anyone can do in life is on the job baptism by fire. You're gonna screw up. I was just talking to my kid who started a new sport, volleyball, and she's asking me for a little advice. I'm like, I've never played volleyball. I like to think I can do a little bit here and there, but I don't know volleyball. I said, if you don't know what to do, ask, and then just play hard. No matter what you do, run hard, play hard. You're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn from it. But I think you're really going to see that. And Dale Fleming, speaking of playing hard, man, supporting us hard. Really appreciate that. Saying great show, Luke and Thomas. Thank you for the fantastic discussions. Broncos country, and Broncos country's rocking and rolling. We got over 115 eyes on us right now. This is MHI. He is Thomas Hall. I am Luke Patterson. Scott Kennedy on the ones and twos. If you'd like to get at Tom at Thomas Hall. NFL on Twitter. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. And get on over to the mothership at Mile High Huddle. If you'd like to reach out to Scott, he's at Scout Kennedy as well. And yeah, we've been all over the board. We're talking about our Broncos here. The subject really was, where do we think do the Broncos deserve to be at the bottom of the division? And of course not. They don't deserve that. The AFC was such a mess last year. I don't know how it's going to be this season, but you're looking at the best division in football with the AFC West. You really are. If we want to rank quarterbacks, I would actually put Derek Carr at the very bottom here. And I think as teams go, as the quarterback goes. So like you said, Tom, rankings are tough. They don't mean much, especially in the regular season, but it's what we've got right now, baby. It's the dead season, dude. So I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with you. I think Wilson. My problem, Herbert's got worlds of potential, but he hasn't really proven everything yet. You know what I mean? So I kind of tend to put Wilson ahead.
Do you know offhand who the OC is up there for the Chargers?
Yeah, I just looked it up, but now I'm forgetting his name.
Okay, I'll look it up real quick. I'll look at Joe. Is it Joe Lombardi? No. Yeah, it's Joe Lombardi.
Okay.
He's got to be the OC over there. Yeah. So, because that's the thing too. I want to know quarterbacks coach. We know what kind of coach Staley is, right? He's got that defense locked down, and I am not talking any junk about the Chargers defense at all. But no, man, you look at Justin Herbert, and for me, that unproven quarterback with an unproven staff as well. Yeah. I would rather have a proven quarterback in Russell Wilson with an unproven staff.
And the one thing we're not looking at too is, and on paper, any given Sunday, the rule. The Broncos don't have a really incredibly tough schedule for the most part. They've got some pretty easy teams on there, and they're not going to be a pushover. Like they were getting rolled by their own division every year. They're not going to be a pushover. So even if you take those 5 easy wins, not saying they're easy because this is the NFL, but on paper, they're not, you got Jacksonville, you got the Jets, people they should beat, and you split the division, which they probably will, maybe even sweep one. They're at 8 or 9 wins right there. And then they got six games to get them to 11 wins. I mean, I still
6 games. They could split it
that's right.
and be right there. Just like Adam Rank had them going 3-3. So, I mean, when you're talking the figures, I got goosebumps right now. When you're talking the figures and you're like, okay, like worst case scenario almost, and they could still limp in. I'm good with it.
Right. Yeah, I think this division is so tough that 11 games takes it this year, and I think that on top of it, you're going to be more battle tested going to the playoffs. So whoever does come from the AFC West should go fairly deep in the playoffs, in my opinion, because they are going to whoever comes out of it on top, they're a good ball club. I mean, the AFC West or the AFC is pretty tough to begin with, but AFC West especially.
This 13 straight winning game streak that the Chiefs have against the Broncos, that's coming to an end. That's not happening anymore under Russell Wilson's watch. You got to know it's in his craw already, and he's not even a part of that. He's
Yeah.
hasn't lost to Mahomes for 13 straight games, and that's one of the reasons he wanted to come here. And he said that he's like, I want to beat the best. I want to play against the best. He's not afraid of that competition. And Pat Mahomes is there. Justin Herbert, we think he's going to be there. Only time will tell. But speaking of time, we're just about out of time. Thank you very much for joining me, Tom. This was absolutely so much fun, man.
Fun.
Anytime we can rap ball, anytime we can joke, anytime we can just team up. It feels good, man. And I'm super pumped to see what you've got coming out every Friday morning. You could catch Tom at Thomas Hall NFL on Twitter. And he is the host of Legends of Mile High podcast. If you're not sure what that is or haven't given it a listen, I recommend it immensely. I mean, it's so cool to see so much success come to friends of mine, come to our team, and then to see Broncos faithful show up and see Ring of Famers show up, see team captains for the Broncos show up. It's a really special thing, man. And you can catch Thomas Friday morning for that, and then Broncos for breakfast. Those guys will be back. Nick has been a little under the weather, but we're getting him back in fighting shape, so he'll be on the mic. And speaking of, we're back. I think those Huddle Up boys are about back to come in the fold tomorrow. I think Chad is officially off of vacation. It's time for him to get back to work. I don't know who approved all that time off. Certainly wasn't me, but no, man, it's been so cool to be able to mix these shows up, man. And like I said, Tom has been pinch hitting, man. He hasn't had any sleep. Neither has Scott. Both men have been traveling and working, and they're showing up for you guys here on MHI. So we really appreciate that, bro.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I love being on the show. It's so much fun. It's, my show, it's just me. So unless I have a guest on, it's just me talking to myself. So it's nice to get some back and forth. I really enjoy it. But this Friday's going to be fun, man. You should check it out. We're going to be talking. Well, we're going to do a little Marlon Briscoe tribute for sure. But we're going to be talking about players from a different era who would be great in today's game. So people that were pretty good back then, but great in today's game. I've got 4 that I would come up with now that I could be like, these are the 4 that I have, but I want to hear from the listeners, I want to hear them give me their ideas. And that's going to be fun, I think.
Wow. Talk about a tease. Everyone loves a good tease in life. And that was about as strong as a tease as you can get. Again, check out Thomas Hall on Legends of Mile High podcast. That will be every Friday morning coming up here in just a couple of days. And then be sure to get at the Mothership guys, Twitter at Mile High Huddle. Get your swag on if you'd like. Grab a hat, a shirt, a coffee mug, huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. All of our Facebook supporters, we really appreciate y'all. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Up Pod. Again, one of the biggest things that I could say is thank you, Broncos country, because time is the most valuable thing that we have on earth. And anytime you guys are spending that time with us, we truly appreciate it. Be sure to let us know how we're doing. Leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, because we care. We get these reviews, just kind of a peek behind the curtain every couple weeks, every week on email. And we do go through them, and they mean a lot to us, just like you guys do. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to put out the best content that is out there. None of that subscription-based stuff, no paying to read, pay to play, none of that. We're a healthy distraction. We've got all your Broncos needs, from articles to film breakdowns to podcasts, morning shows, afternoon shows, book club. I think I got it all covered, but this was a ton of fun, man. Tom, we will see you on Friday morning. The Huddle Up boys are back tomorrow. Broncos country, thank you so much for joining MHI. I'm Luke Patterson for Tom Hall and Scott Kennedy. Let's ride.